If you don't know how to do the DevOps, he'll tell you how to do the DevOps, man.
Yeah, you can't actually do DevOps.
What?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I got a spoiler in there about that, too. So we're actually going to do story times. We're going to gather around the dumpster fire here a little bit. And unfortunately, these are all true stories. I have changed some of the names because I like my job. Okay, but this is who I am. I'm a technology advocate for ThoughtWorks. Been there about 10 years. I'm also on the DevOps Days global core organizing team at the moment. Woo! Hey, DevOps Days. Yeah. 72 cities this year, I think. Anyway, yeah. But yeah. You're like at least in that area. Okay, first story. So I met a client, this is many, many years ago, and they're complaining about their CI server. Their CI server sucks because they have 26 feature branches, and when they merge them all at the end of the sprint, all the tests go red. It's just possible that that's not the CI server's fault. Okay, so the lesson from this one, I want to encourage you to at least think about doing trunk-based development, master, whatever you want to call it. If you put the code into a single branch, mainline, whatever, more often your CI server can actually catch it because it will actually have seen the code, which comes out to be a prerequisite. Another one I actually see this one quite often. So people have a multi-stage pipeline, and they build a thing, and they put it somewhere, and then it goes through a bunch of other tests, and then they eventually deploy it somewhere. And the customer's like, how did that version get in production? Well, it turned out their production deploy was always grabbing the latest one from the repository, even if that's not the one that went all through all the other stages. Yeah, so for 9 months, they'd been deploying the latest version, not the version that actually passed all the tests. I wish I could tell you that was uncommon. Okay, so please keep your artifacts organized, know what you're doing, tag them through them, pass the metadata. I'm going to be a little bit snide here. If you're going to use a CI server for CD, then at least make sure you're passing these things along there. The other thing that it would be incredibly easy, and it is incredibly easy, for me to write a really bad application and put it on one of the public cloud services and put our logo on it, and you would think it's a ThoughtWorks app, and then it sucks. And ThoughtWorks sucks, right? And so there are safe ways to do this stuff. Beware of shadow IT. Don't go out there and put things on there and bypass your processes internally and so forth. Modern doesn't have to be fragile. I know at some organizations they're really hesitant to allow you to use some of the newer technologies. It's awesome to see 200 people in there getting Kubernetes training today. But please be careful. Don't just put your logo on it and stick it out there. Because then we get compliance anarchy. I see all the time people say, oh, I have a pipeline and I can get to production in 12 minutes. And my response is usually, bull. If you can, you're not actually doing things like this. It is important that we go through the compliance and stuff. That said, it doesn't have to be the 500-row spreadsheet that's every compliance thing that ever might have come up. I would actually encourage you to invite your auditors to your development teams early. Let them know, these are the parts of the system we're going to be touching. This is the tech stack we're going to be using. This is what we're going to do on public clouds. This is what we're going to do, da, 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 da. Let them know what the risk points are so that you can test the right things. And then you can actually test them, not just rubber stamp it. Sonotype did a study on Maven Central that well over 20% of the projects that use Maven Central use modules, whatever you call them, libraries, with known critical vulnerabilities. So you really have to actually do security as everyone's job. There are tools out there now that will run your code base and make sure that you're using only things that have passed, et cetera. Please do this. I can't tell you how rare it is for me to see automated security on a pipeline. DevOps team. I apologize. This is where I'm going to make some people angry. Creating another silo is not a solution for silos. Okay. So you don't create a DevOps team and have them create the automation that everybody else uses, because then they don't know how the automation works and they go around it because it doesn't do what they need it to be. So you do need all the pieces on the team. Now, I'm not saying you can't have a CI platform or what have you, but people need to understand how their deployments are happening, because guess what? Infrastructure as code's not really code. Yeah, so they need to understand how these things work. Don't do things because Netflix did. Okay, I mean, if you are doing something at the same scale and you do need those things, absolutely learn from the big, the unicorns out there, but don't do it just because they did. There's a lot of people that blame people at my company for creating the term microservices. I'm sorry, but it doesn't mean that you have to use them all the time. So focus on the things that you actually need. You know, if you have a real use case for Kubernetes, by all means, use Kubernetes. Don't use it because it's cute. Speaking of this, another thing I see all the time is, okay, how do I set up my continuous delivery server to make sure that these two microservices are deployed together because they have a dependency? It's like, well, then they're not microservices. Wait, what? If a thing can't be deployed independently, it's not a microservice. If it shares a data backend with something else, it's not a microservice. If it has to be deployed at the same time as another service, it's not a microservice. Okay, by definition, they need to be independently deployable. You're not going to get the CI/CD results you want if they aren't. Nobody buys a hammer because they want a hammer. Okay, people buy a hammer because they want to build something, so not a house. The reason for that, there's no such thing as a DevOps tool. Okay, so if you need better monitoring, by all means, find a great monitoring tool. If you need a better continuous delivery tool, go for it. You know, if you need a better logs analysis tool, go for it. But there's no such thing as a DevOps tool, because DevOps is culture. Thank you.